Hey everybody, it's Ken and Danille,
Hello.
and we're here with Brian Bradley. What's going on, Brian?
Not much. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. And it's going to be an important topic. And I hope the concepts that, I talk about and that we break down help your listeners understand, a little bit better, the knowledge of asset protection and just how to protect ourselves moving forward.
Yeah, well, it's a big deal. We get asked this a lot, and I know there's a bunch of questions we're going to fire at you, but, we focus a lot on real estate investing.
Yeah.
But, the worst thing that you guys can do is have everything in your own name as a sole proprietor, because what happens is things happen. Trust me, we get sued and you need to have asset protection around all your assets. So I'm excited to have you on. So Brian, you were voted best attorney of America's list for 2020. Wow.
Yeah. Yeah. I was shocked, about that one, but I think it's just, I like what I do. I'm good at what I do. And, it's nice when you can combine your internal geekiness, and find a way to make money out of it as well.
Yeah, it is good. Well, welcome. So we're going to jump right into it. Let's start off with, what exactly is asset protection and why do we care about protecting our assets?
Yeah, so that's a great place. That's the perfect place to start, I think, because we hear about this fancy weird word, asset protection. I don't anybody, think people really even understand what this concept is. And so asset protection is not traditional estate planning. It's modern estate planning. And what we're doing is placing a legal barrier between your assets and your, and a potential creditor, meaning the person suing you and trying to collect on you and take your money from you before it's needed. And that's the key word, we're doing this all beforehand. And it's just like a barrier, like a safe for your gold or your guns or valuables. Anything of value you want to put behind the legal barrier and out of your personal name so that it's not easily attached with a lien or reached. Just like the rich, I really enjoy, the Tony Robbins saying, success leaves clues. The rich don't own things in their personal names. Their businesses and their trusts do. They just get the beneficial use and enjoyment out of them while they separate out, the legal liability. And then, to get to the second part of your question, why do we care about asset protection? I got into asset protection from the litigation and trial side of law and just having clients being sued and their lives just turned completely upside down, coming to me after the fact, after they were already being sued. And at that point, you're just way too far down the rabbit hole. It's like trying to go and get car insurance after you already had an accident, or fire insurance and home insurance after you already had a fire in your house. And I see a lot of people thinking that they don't need to do anything until after the fact. And that's just riding lady luck. And you're too far down the hole, at that point. It's just wishful thinking. Or they think that their insurance will always cover them, which it won't. It's important to have. You need it, and you need to have good insurance. But we're getting more and more claims that are just radically in excess of their insurance coverage. So being underinsured is a big problem. And then there's a really big misconception, which we'll break down, I think, pretty extensively on LLCs. And a lot of people think like, oh, I'm just going to create an LLC and that's a one-stop silver bullet, fix all. But they missed literally the first word, first letter. They tell you straight up in the name, limited. They're not hiding this fact. And the sad thing is, if you look around our legal system in the US, it's just broken. We're a sue happy nirvana. And if you don't mind me, setting the stage a little bit further, on what's going on in this world, this, I think is important because this way we have more of a context to know what we're actually fighting against.
Everybody says throw everything into LLC, but you said the word L is limited. So, what are some misconceptions about LLCs? Because I think a lot of the industry just says, just throw your asset into that.
So let's start with this. The LLC is the very beginning. It's asset protection 101. Generally, you're going to be starting out in an LLC when you have 0 to 3 rental property, like 0 to 3 units, and your net assets below probably $250,000 or less. So you're just starting out. You have nothing, or you're about 250 grand or less. And then as you grow and you start adding more assets, you're going to hit around that 4-unit spot, probably around $500,000, $700,000. That's when you start scaling up in the next levels of protection. All right. Now, the LLCs, this first layer, they're your holding companies. They hold your risky assets like real estate, anything that has a key that needs insurance that can go boom and hurt somebody. You want to put them into LLCs. How many just depends on the client specific situation. Now, the first problem generally is that most clients have single member LLCs and they're all in their personal name. The problem here is that courts now disregard single member LLCs. The second big problem here is what we talked about, charging order chasing. It's like, where do we set these things up in? And there's a lot of confusion on this. And I see a lot of CPAs and other lawyers really convoluting something that doesn't need to be very difficult. And then the final really big misconception with LLCs, like I said, is the big word people are falling in love with, anonymity. And the thought here is that you can just create an anonymous LLC and that you just completely disappear and you can ghost a lawsuit. And this is completely false, but I get this question every day. And when your LLC is sued, you're going to be legally required to appear and defend it. And you also have to have a personal agent of service. Their sole job is to say, hey, guess what, Ken, congratulations, your LLC just got sued. Now go get a lawyer and get your butt into court and defend yourself.
Well, I love the fact that you came from the litigating side. And, I think a lot of times, as a litigator, what were you looking at? Now you're on the other side protecting. It's very interesting. What were you looking at as a litigator? What were you trying to pierce?
I was always looking at when I would request discovery, I would want the operating manuals. I'd want their policies and procedures. I would look at how the LLCs and stuff were funded. How's the money being managed in their accounting? Are they commingling accounts? And then that's generally those are the easiest ways to pierce LLCs 9 times out of 10, especially if it's real estate. The argument is, well, this is not a business. This is just an extension of themselves holding real estate. Boom, like 9 times out of 10, just that argument alone is going to win. Then the next is people are horrible with accounting and managing their money. And so next thing you know, they're going to start paying bills out of their business account as money comes in versus paying themselves a disbursement into their personal account and paying bills from there. So they start commingling assets. And there's no operating agreement. There's no operating manual. There's no policies in place. So as you're in litigation, you start requesting all this information. I'm requesting this to stack up to pierce your veil to get to your house, to get to your stock account, to get to your cryptocurrency, to get to your real estate investments, to collect on all my clients' money.
Yeah, that makes sense. So, because when you set up an entity, there are rules, and most people don't follow those rules.
And most people are shopping around, unfortunately, skimping on the most important thing of when they set up is their foundation systems, their business entities, and they don't pay attention to what happens if everything goes belly up. And I mean, it's just human nature. It's like, why do most people put off creating a family estate plan? Because people don't want to think about their own mortality until it's too late. Same thing with asset protection and creating, businesses. Most people would rather skimp on that part of it, wait till they get sued, then come back in and fix it after they just lost $1 million lawsuit.
Yeah, that makes sense.
When the mindset should be completely opposite. It should be protect yourself, get a good CPA, get your business foundation established in place, then worry about the profit lines.
So we get questions sometimes on the commingling of accounts too. Is that how long, does somebody need to start over with a whole nother account if they have been doing that? Or do you just advise them to just try not to do that? Or what's your...
I would just say, talk to your CPA, see how bad of a mess you really are. And then just most people don't even get a basic QuickBooks account and then ledger things out and track money coming in and money coming out at least. And then give your CPA, accountant access to it. And there's a reason they're professionals at this. Let them do their job. They will save you money in the long run. But if you have your books in order and your accounting in order, if you get sued, one of the most expensive things that people have to spend money on is forensic accountants to backtrack all the money and pennies of where everything went. And most of the time, you don't have the money to hire those type of experts to do that because they're super expensive. And so save your time and energy and just manage your money and your budget a little bit better and track money coming in, receivables, basic QuickBooks account.
Well, Brian Bradley, thank you. I'm sure you'll get lots of traffic. I appreciate your wisdom, and we'll talk to you soon.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
All right. Cheers.